All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Foxtrotting in a Foxhole, Season 10, Episode 23, Number 311 overall. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan, coming to you from Eagle's Nest 2 on a fabulous Friday. TGI effing it. Yeah. As always, gotta do the shameless stuff. Like and subscribe to FTINFX Media's YouTube channel. Help you out. Give us a like on Spotify if that's where you consume this. Check out the latest episode of Aftershocks 041 that dropped the other day. As always, if you want to be a guest there or the scene, or maybe come on the other podcast I'm a part of, SJ Gets Down, drop a line at ftinfx@gmail.com or give us a call 541-525-0896. Leave a message. Let us know how we're doing. As always, we thank the folks at Rode, Zoom, and some of the other partners that we have. Okay, that's in the background as far as this truck making that noise. Can't do anything about that. Of course, people always want to start doing stuff like this when I'm recording. But yeah, we thank the folks at Rode, especially Zoom, Potensic, all the cool toys out there, Ozbot, Sony. Yeah, all the gear that we use in this podcast was helpful. So we're in the process of upping our game. Was doing some test reels last night, so I'm really excited about how that's progressing. As far as the video platform, this is going to be video and audio here. I don't know, some point before season 10's over with. We're taking our time. I mean, the tools are there, and we're working it and integrating it and all that kind of stuff. All right, enough of the chitter chatter on that level. Let's get cooking. Open Face, episode 311, coming at you right now. Wow. Did you have this on your 2026 scorecard? Apparently, Sir Charles and Your Highness himself, MJ, are going to break bread together and end their long-standing feud that's been publicly acknowledged from all sorts of folks. Yeah, and apparently it was Vince Coleman. Yeah, that Vince Coleman. Long time you thought about that guy, but the prolific base stealer for the St. Louis Cardinals and did some stints elsewhere. We have a story about Vince Coleman or two one of these days, but I think it's funny that because these athletes, they all travel in the same circles and things like that. And basically, Vince Coleman went up and said, "Hey, man," yeah, I guess he was hanging out in Jordan. It was just like, "Man, this is bullshit." I'm here with Mike. You two need to get on the phone and stop being a bunch of bees. So apparently they're going to play golf, and I'm sure there'll be a sit down, and not that either one of them need any money, but Chuck and his gambling. I mean, Jordan can gamble every day for the next 4 lifetimes and never be broke. So anyway, good to see that Mike and Chuck are making nice. That means there's hope for all you other folks out there, myself included, that have this peace with people that, hey, maybe bridges can be mended at some point. Oh man. I swear, what is all this commotion going on in this damn neighborhood? Nothing was going on before I started this damn recording, so anyway, these are the things that happen when you're like recording in your bedroom studio. Oh boy. Well, we'll say what I have to say about the biggest story other than the NFL draft, which was last night. Obviously, the ongoing thing with Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini, but I'll save that for a closer look. Let me move on with Disney. Yeah, that Disney, which is so funny when because I saw this thing on KCBS or CBS LA, one of their reporters must have been a figure skater at one point, but she was doing the Disney on Ice thing. It was actually pretty good. So props to you, Mandy. Yeah, I know I got sidetracked. That does happen in the Foxhole. But back to Disney. Apparently, they want to advertise at this year's Super Bowl. Okay, fine, great visibility. Not like Disney really needs it. After all, they are at the end of the game. Where are you going when you won the Super Bowl? I'm going to Disney World. However, Disney, which, as we all know, has their ties with ESPN, they basically want $10 million for each 30-second Super Bowl ad. Now, that was all about the children and families. But how about the NFL or broadcast partners, which you kind of are, you are not kind of, you are one, I would tell you to kick rocks. But then again, as I've been saying lately, the way people throw billions around, I guess maybe 10 million is cab fare. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Another interesting point for me, and I talked about this last week when I made this. Well, I brought up the unis that were all rolled out. Particularly the Commanders going back to the Super Bowl era uniforms as they were called. And I think I spoke about the black one, which is going to have a new helmet that has a spear through it. Not really the spear from the Sonny Jurgensen era in the 60s or Florida State. I mean, this could be a spear that represents battle, period. But lo and behold, the native groups finally chime in when they see the spear back. And of course, there are crickets when someone says, "You're mad about this, but you haven't said shit about the Chiefs' Arrowhead." In fact, you haven't done anything about them really doing their stupid and the tomahawk chop. Where have you been for someone like me who's sitting there trying to be on your side after not being on your side for a long time? You want to chime in now when all this nonsense is going on with the Chiefs. You let these people get gassed up for the last, what are we now, 4 years since the Commanders and Guardians rebranded, convincing all these morons, see, Indians don't think it's racist. 99%, which is complete bullshit, which I've been telling you this for years. But I'm like, why are you chiming in now about, oh, you're not our mascot, when you should have been educating these people all along why you have a problem with names like the Redskins, Indians. It's just silly. And I'm baffled. So somebody out there who tell me. Especially, I need to go reach out to the Anita because they were the ones who, were out in the forefront with this many years ago. But I'm like, still, why are you commenting now on this and trying to flex? Because the Commanders brought back a spear that's pretty generic, right? I don't see any feathers on it. I don't think. We have to look at it again, but I think it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty arbitrary. Could be a Roman sentinel. It could be with George Washington when he's fighting against the Indians back in the 1750s. And maybe that's what you're pissed off about. I don't know. Okay. Well, it's playoff time, and you gotta love. I spoke about this on the Aftershocks the other day with Mr. Portland guy and being too cheap on the t-shirts. But you gotta love the t-shirt game. I probably bring this up every year. San Antonio, they're back in the playoffs for the first time in the Wemby era, post Popovich. All the luminaries are there. Tim Duncan. But I love thinking, what are we? It's some Vegas chorus show where everybody's got cards of the Rose Bowl with all the different color coordinated t-shirts. And everybody out there trying to flex. And you got this guy in Portland just being like, nah, man, we ain't wasting money on that bull jive. One more reason why this is a pretty fun time of the year, I must say. Right where this converges. It's not quite when things get crazy during football season, but this is pretty darn close with the NBA playoffs, soccer, and everything coming to NHL, obviously, coming to a crescendo, as they say. Okay, okay, okay. What else do we have this week? Let's go. Let's do a little freestyling here. Go away from the outline and just go off the top of my head of things that I think are interesting. Oh, Sharon Moore in the news again. We talked about how he basically got a slap on the wrist, which Coach Jason Brown, who apparently knows him, said he would. That once we got underneath the hood, that there was a lot of smoke, but very little fire. As we said initially, translation, they wanted this black boo boo out of Ann Arbor. And it was a convenient way to dispose of him. That for cause thing, man. Anyway, his side piece at the center of this controversy, and depending on who you believe, may have been in on it with his wife in terms of some freaky deaky open marriage, but it's okay as long as he still loves me kind of bullshit. But hey, that's what people do in their bedrooms and pools. That's their damn business. That's not for me to get moral on. I'm not going to pull a Whitlock on you, that's for sure. But she spoke out and talked about how she was trapped, and the more she tried to get out, the more she was pulled back in. And I'm wondering, how much did today or whatever hack show give you to come on here so we can feel sorry for the snow bunny that was chilling with the brother coach that has no moral or sexual discipline? And we're supposed to care. I'm just serious. And how it even made the news cycle is beyond me, other than the fact that, like I said earlier this week in Aftershocks, a good deal of us apparently just can't get enough of that gossip mill, and our thirst and hunger for it has no bottom. It's endless. Okay. Oh, that was kind of interesting. It's like Joe Buck, he's done a couple of like one-off baseball games this year, and everybody keeps asking him, "Don't you want to get back in the booth?" And I love how he's always just so nonchalant. Well, this is kind of fun, but damn it, I'm hanging out with Troy and making bad dollars doing the NFL, a less rigorous schedule. Hell no, I don't want to go back to calling baseball games on a regular basis. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And everybody looks so crestfallen, like, oh, I really hope you would come back. It's so great to hear your voice. And he's just like, nah, man. When I can do probably a third of the work and get paid more, that's what I'm talking about. British Petroleum. And how about this thing with the Kalshi caper is what we'll call this. The one, I guess, is he a special ops or special forces guy? Ended up making something like 400K because he placed a future with Kalshi using classified information that he and his posse could only know as far as the military actions that happened there earlier in the year. A lot to unpack it, because normally this would be worth some TMCA time, but this is one of those rare instances where I'm so floored and need more time to unpack it before I hand out awards, because one, the big brass balls to do something so audacious like that and get paid. But then on the flip side of it, there's usually an electronic trail, and if they're going to give up that kind of coin, they're probably going to look into who you are and how did you know that? Because they don't like giving up that money easy. Not that kind of money. Yeah, that's a special 2026 one for you, isn't it? Okay. Since this is open face and we're meandering all over the place, I told you we're going to freestyle it for a minute. Oh, man. I like to talk about things that I see in the interwebs. earlier in the year, the whole chaos with like the Houston rodeo, and this past week, 2026 keeps giving. This whole nonsense down at Coachella. I've never been to Coachella. I mean, I've been there. I saw Fish, at the Empire Polo Grounds. It's out there in Coachella Valley by Palm Springs. Great place. I never went to Coachella itself. And, it used to be a hipster event. I had no idea it had descended into this really influencer heavy where you're getting paid to represent these brands, and there's all these scams going on, and there's just all the people just spending money when I was that age, and it makes me wonder what I'm doing wrong as far as social media goes. Like and subscribe that YouTube to our YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, you'd have to, if you know what I'm talking about, and if not, go check out some of these videos on YouTube about Coachella and some of the scams and just this really gross culture that's sort of taken over, and where it's really not a pleasant experience, especially for the common folks. Here's another one that I wasn't ready for. When did hood prom become when did that enter the lexicon? When did that enter the lexicon, I should say? And then there's the argument, nah, y'all hating and you just being a bunch of racists. It's really black culture prom versus hood prom. Okay, we are celebrating hood prom. But I've seen some of these videos too, and see, I was kind of a nerd back in the day, and wasn't into that stuff. Was into this kind of stuff, the same kind of stuff I'm doing now. So I wasn't cool enough to even have a date to the prom, so I wouldn't even know. But this whole hood prom stuff, good golly, Miss Molly, she does more than ball. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Let me get this back on track so I don't stick my foot in my mouth on that one. I like to talk about memorabilia. Yes, we do. And the latest in the land of absurdity that entails, an autographed MJ card this week netted $4.25 million at auction. Now, everybody be liking them some Mike, and especially the greenbacks and the big bag of cash, they love Mike. But once again, like the guy from, the show that Mark Cooper's on Shark Tank. Can't even think of his name. Don't care. It's part of the scenery. Spending all that money for that rare Kobe Jordan card. What? You spent $4 million. You could have, gave that $4 million to plenty of podcasters and helped them build a brand where they're actually informing people and doing something good for the society. But no, you want to spend $4 million on a Jordan card. Oh my God, it's autographed. And you're going to do what? Walk around with that BDC or whatever you are energy? Jesus. And we'll go one step further with this one. I just found out, because The Matrix, my friend of the show next door, Andy G, and Eagles Nest One, showing our guest this Titanic documentary. Yeah, all fine and dandy. But then what The Matrix doing its best, what pops up in my feed next? A life vest from the Titanic nets $900K at auction. And again, okay, you're going to put that in a museum, so maybe, or something like that. What's your return going to be other than, nah, man, I got lots of money. I think it's pretty cool to have a life vest that was mostly on the Titanic, dude. Maybe this will get me laid or something like that. Okay, folks, that's Open Face. You can already tell I'm salty. We're definitely cooking burgers and dogs on the Lazy Susan on this fine Friday afternoon. When we come back, we will do the high view above campus. All right. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' like Kavicha Karvachkelia on a fantastic Friday afternoon in the Foxhole. Well, it is the lunchtime hour. No time than better to get the homies and homettes together, call our lift, get ourselves down West 11th, get ourselves to the Eugene Airport, where we're going to boogie on down through TSA, high-fiving and back-slapping all along the way, till we get to our shimmering Gulfstream G650 that awaits us on the tarmac, where we're going to get to our cruising altitude of 43,000 feet. For what? To take the high view over the campuses of America. So what's happening this week on campus? Well, I'll say this. The week sure did start off on a very ominous note, wouldn't you say? You see, I'm sure it's kind of hard not to. It's pretty much on any news or sports outlet, and probably even TMZ or something like that. But there was the spring game at Virginia Tech, the Hokies, and I guess part of the entertainment festivities, they had some skydivers. Well, one of them ended up crashing into the scoreboard. Luckily, he wasn't hurt seriously, but the person was dangling from the scoreboard for a little bit of time. It was pretty uncomfortable. I'm sure sustained some bruises, but more like, damn, some embarrassing stuff there. But I just thought, boy, this is just so right in line with 2026 as far as kicking off that part of the year. A doozy. Just tells us what we have in store, as the silence of college football will be not much longer. Well, whatever I meant to say. We're all over the place here. There was a point to make there. We'll get it back on the tracks. So let me flip away from that and bring up this point. And there have been all sorts of discussions I've heard today. Something I'll bring up in Aftershocks once I do some more research the next episode, I'm pretty sure. Well, one of the things that was dropped earlier this week was analysts are now saying if college football and the broadcast partners will centralize these media rights deals, by 2035, they predict revenue can triple, which is very interesting because there's a big talk. I think I forget what the guy's name is, but I know it's with Maria Cantwell of Washington. They're trying to push forth a bill that's going to bring sanity. One of many of the proposals that I've kind of meekly outlined over the past couple of months is some adults get in the room and try to put their arms around this current chaos that we're experiencing. And out of the haze, it's an interesting point. Like I said, we'll drill down on this more in the next Aftershocks. But the future of Title IX, and if you've followed this podcast for years, what I said in the beginning and all along, where we were going to have an adult conversation about these Olympic sports that mom and dads and daughters like and stuff like that. When you go to a profit-only model. And, maybe this is a way in that weird, whatever Christian view that Jason Whitlock's trying to espouse, how men can provide. But basically, if you triple the revenue, you might be able to pay for the non-revenue sports that way. That's the only way this is ever going to make sense. If football just becomes insane, you get so much money from football media rights deals. The thing is, how do you keep people interested? Especially as we've talked about. If you're throwing all this money, because the money has to be passed around. You're getting this is coming in, that's coming out. And it's all dependent on football. But if you're 3-9, 2 years in a row, you see what I'm saying? It's an interesting road, but I like that they are trying to really engineer an approach to make everybody happy. I don't think you can make everybody happy, but I like that they're trying. And it's in the spirit of fairness, so you really can't poo-poo too hard on that. Moving away from that, though, in terms of creating this revenue model, boy, the fight. You remember that song, what was it, by Chicago, 25, 6 or 4, something like that? Well, we should call this song 24, 16 or 4. Because in the end, it was pretty good what it was for. There was lots of arguments. Same arguments we're having now. Might be even more, a little bit more sane back then. 16, that's interesting. That's 4 more than we currently have. And 24, well, that's a superhighway. And obviously, the 2 major conferences have their preference. And everybody else was like, well, hell no. If you have 24, we have a chance to get some of those big bags of cash too. And that's really what it comes down to, is being able to get access to the big bags of cash that this product is going to generate. And that product is a CFP over the next 10 years. And that's why there are people that would like to see this stuff centralized. Okay. Because in that vein, we all know this current system, a lot of it's going away. When you see that Fox is dropping the Holiday Bowl from its schedule, and I think that means Fox only has 1 bowl left, nobody gives a shit. It's the CFP, and nobody gives a shit about the early rounds of the CFP because you're trying to be all-inclusive. So there are limitations to this business, and while we may fund a happy place where everybody can survive, there are some folks who are going to be thrown out with the bathwater. And we ain't talking the baby either. I mean, yeah, you have 1 bowl game left. I'm sure ESPN's just like going, man, I wish we could be like them. We got the CFP, but we got all this other bullshit that nobody never gonna watch other than parents, brothers, sisters, and girlfriends and boyfriends. Then you've got this whole thing down there in Lexington, Kentucky. Governor Andy Brasher, or is it Brasher? Part of the scenery. He calls out the UK program. Translation, what does Ken mean by he calls them out? He basically is saying, we're spending too much and y'all ain't doing squat. Football's a joke, and basketball, you're not living up to your expectations. So much heat that he's brought down, and this Mitch Barnhart, who used to be up the road here in Corvallis at Oregon State, had a sweetheart deal where he was going to make $1 million a year and basically some post-consulting job. He's looking at this crap like, why should you get $1 million parachute? What the F have we accomplished on your watch? So Mr. Barnhart is sheepishly walking away from this as he should. And it's interesting to see the governors and some of these state schools. You're seeing Jeff Landry down in Louisiana sticking his nose in. And it's like, I get it. Usually when you have, the biggest PERS recipient on the payroll is probably somebody related to football. Yeah, there's always going to be an electoral component to all of this. All right. When it comes to the portal, what do they say? Some stay and others are ease on down the road. Yeah, the whiz. Yeah, some folks are staying, and I just wonder if you're staying or if you're going, is it about the cash? Is it about a chance to have a better showcase for your talents? A combination of both? Or you just don't want to play for that bitch-ass coach anymore, and you can leave because there's no one stopping you in this current model. Okay. But yeah, it's interesting because it's an interesting mix. I mean, everybody and their brother and sister are in the portal, but there are some significant names who are deciding to stay where they are for next basketball season. So I always applaud that. And I always wake up another day going, Well, maybe it's a good thing that Northridge didn't make the tournament because nobody has poached Andy Newman yet, and I'm always thankful every day for that. Okay, how about this one? Kalen DeBoer, KD Bay. Yeah, not Kevin De Bruyne, but Kalen DeBoer. He signs a 7-year, $87.5 million extension to remain in Tuscaloosa. What does the Foxhole think of that? Well, I think a lot. There's a bit to unpack with this, like many things. A lot of conversation about this week. Because you remember at one point he was in the discussions for the Michigan job. Yeah. I think, on the one hand, replacing a legend like St. Nick, and this is the school that Bear Bryant did coach at, one of the original legends, right? Hard to replace a legend. Better that the Big Ten obviously is the major domo. They all be it in college football, college basketball. So while he's not winning you the natties, he's getting you into the playoffs and keeping the product together. You know what he did in Seattle at UW with definitely less. It just makes sense to pay him and keep him happy, especially anybody who's willing to coach in this fucked up era. Pardon my language. No cuss jar yet. We're working on it. Yeah, anybody that wants to remain with the rigors of what the job entails now, especially replacing a legend, oh yeah. And they were in the CFP last night, so I don't think this is a bad move at all from the Crimson Tide. And I know everybody's screaming poverty this and how operating costs are sending them into a sea of the reddest ink. Okay, well, if that's true, then why is Nebraska and Auburn announcing major renovations for their stadiums, with the Cornhuskers coming in at $600 million and Auburn coming in at $323 million? I mean, I keep hearing these cries of how it's unsustainable, and I keep saying, well, clearly we are at the Sterling Green Lord of the Flies stage quite yet. Okay, let's lighten it up here a little bit. Let's talk a little women's basketball. A couple of quick hits here. Now, the women's game has picked up. I gotta ask, what is Notre Dame and Villanova doing opening this season in Rome? Now, I'm sure Rome wants to see them some Hannah Hidalgo or what like, but come on, man. Why would you spend the resources to do that? Make it make sense for me somehow. Cool for them. Gonna be a good trip, great life experience. But when I think South Carolina's program with Lady Dunn operates at a deficit, what the hell can these folks be running at if South Carolina's program's at a deficit and y'all are taking everybody to Rome? Okay, then. Well, we know that the Blazers owner has no say in that. I talked about Zachariah Branch earlier this week. And obviously, we'll see how his draft tumbles for being an idiot, or as General Andre says, doing stupid shit right in front of the NFL draft. That was funny, though. Sean King, right, who used to play for Tampa Bay, a few other stops, and he's on Whitlock and Coach JB and Smitty, part of the cast. I can't believe he was copping up for this guy. I'm like, come on, Sean, you know better. The guy was being, as they say, he was being a shepherd. Stay home before you're going to get paid. Be a choir boy. Once you sign that contract, you can go be as dumb as you need to be. When you're getting that money, but you ain't got that money yet. Well, you're in college, so you got some money, but you ain't got the NFL money yet. lastly, you gotta love this one. And this is up my alley too. You have Big West, which I just found it. I'm still shocked that Santa Barbara's leaving the Big West to go to the WCC. But UC Irvine, the Anteaters, their volleyball announcer, who I'm sure knows all my homies, I know everybody in MPSF land, this guy is Charlie Brand. He got canned. Why did he get canned for, Ken? Apparently, he made fun of what was perceived to be a very sissy celebration. And I've seen some stuff that is very, I don't know, we'll just call it fluid, or I don't know. I think fluid is probably being insulted by some of the stuff I'm talking about. I'll just leave it at that because I don't need to stick it in my foot in my mouth. But basically, he made fun of a sissy celebration. And now he is no longer calling games for the Anteaters. And I know, it's just, calling these volleyball games is quite the thing. When I was in CSUN, we had this guy, Sam Lagana, who turned that into all sorts of opportunities. So these guys become cult heroes, but apparently that toxic masculinity, 20th century style, it ain't playing in 2020s, especially if you work for a school like University of California, Irvine, or pretty much any school in higher ed. Yeah. Okay, folks, we're churning and burning, eating up your timeline. When we return, we'll do something you should probably know. See you momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' like a funky comadina. Not really, more like Kavicha Karvachkaya Kavara. Okay, we'll stop being silly. We're just giddy. It's a Friday. As I talked about the other day, excited to meet the new primary owner of SCFC later this afternoon. Try to bring a camera and get some footage. Could be cool. All right then. What do we got here? Well, we have one of our favorite segments of the Foxtrotting and the Foxhole podcast. Something you should probably know. No. Or things that happened this past week in the world of sports you might want to know or even possibly care about. Well, Stephen A. Smith, once again, showing why he finished first in his class at the Wharton School. Comes out in his arrogant ass as usual, saying that race car drivers and golfers have skill, but they are not athletes. Thank you, Stephen A., for once again showing why. If you have even a semblance of an IQ, you were tired of that guy 10 years ago, if not 20. They're not athletes. So they're not in tip-top shape to be the badasses that they are. Thanks, Stephen A. Glad you get to be the arbiter of who is an athlete and who's not. Good job. This is why. Hopefully you will run for the presidency, get your ass kicked, and the door will be locked to ESPN, and all that pride clout you have without ESPN's backing will evaporate, and you'll just be another clown like Jasmine Crockett looking for sympathy. We can only hope. Okay. Speaking of, let's talk some golf. You know, that's what we do in this segment. talked about this a little bit the other day, and it's interesting though the clapping back in terms of if these guys are thinking of coming back, and I'll give Liv this as much as Mexico. They tried to make it sound like a shit show. It wasn't as bad as it was initially made out to be. I mean, it was pretty spicy, but there's people who are quadrupling down that Rom, Bryson, like I said the other day, any of these guys who have game, if they want back in, it should be brutal. And the one cat, which escapes me right now, says they shouldn't come back. F them. You wanted the bag, you got the bag. Now get the hell away, which we know is not going to happen. But I think it's really interesting, and the question. I shouldn't say it's interesting. I always say that. But what's interesting to me is how much should it hurt? I mean, it hurts pretty bad already, but I have a feeling, the early birds like Mr. Kupka, they're going to get off easy if there is a mass exodus back to the PGA. That's just my gut feeling. On the actual course itself, Matt Fitzpatrick continuing his hot 2026, winning at Harbour Town. Beating Scotty, no less. 2 weeks in a row, Scotty, the bridesmaid. Wow. Rom won down there in Mexico. I mean, right? The TV show was the TV broadcast, but what's new there? With anything these days. I mean, try watching the NBA on Prime. Bill Simmons will give you an earful, and we won't even get to Netflix. But yeah, Rom wins. Bryson withdrew with a bad wrist. Yada, 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 yada. Since Tiger's in the doghouse, he won't be leading our next effort of the Ryder Cup. Apparently, it'll be Jim Furyk's turn to ride on the hot seat. Can't wait to see how that turns out. Okay. As I spoke about on Aftershocks the other day, Toyota, but most importantly, Tyler Reddick, which I somehow said Jordan, the driver, the other day on Aftershocks. Apologize for that one. But yes, Reddick gets his 5th win after Hamlin fades on a late restart. 5 wins for Reddick. But I think it's, like I said the other day, it's more about Toyota than it is the Jordan magic. Hey, it's good to see Jordan smile. Usually that guy's, right? He's one of the sourest people on the planet. Can't be bothered. But this is bringing him joy. So if Mike's joy, we're all happy too. The weird thing about it, though, is with NASCAR. When they did their media rights deal, which has, I think, we're moving to the Prime platform pretty quick here after we do Charlotte, I think it is, right? We do the World 600 and then this, or I think that starts on Prime. Point being is you got more money, but fewer people can find the product. And this is going to be interesting with F1, as the corner man pointed out. Moving to the Apple platform. We see how that works with MLS, and we're going to have to do a long conversation about that. Once I can get the right guest on here to talk about this, and I have to figure this out here. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. It's another story for another time. Point being is, you've got some cash, but now not everybody wants to get on Prime. You heard what the corner man said about F1 and Apple, and he's as big of a racing enthusiast as I know. All right. Let's see, what else do we have here this week? How about the UFL shenanigans? You have to talk about the UFL. And that sounded like a overhead shot. Yeah. I mean, there are some places, like I said, where it works, but this isn't working. I don't care what anybody says. There's enough money in this world. It's not a colossal waste because it is giving the people an opportunity to get some eyeballs on them, get some tape, as they say. But I just don't see, unless you're a hardcore football weirdo, I just don't see how this appeals to you. But I did dig AJ McCarron, who's coaching, I think, for Birmingham Stallions. He got so pissed, he traded Matt Corral for DTR. And I thought DTR was still in the NFL. I know Matt Corral's ass got ran a long time ago, but I didn't know DTR was trying to ply his trade. The UCLA man, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, lastly, but that quarterback room got too crowded, obviously. You know, it's just funny because I thought, Coach JB, Coach Jason Brown, who is friends with AJ McCarron, just said that watching that product is just indicative of quarterback play all across the board. It's pretty crappy, is what he says, and I'm kind of thinking that too when I watch the UFL and what happens when NFL teams often have to go to their second and third options. Hence why Josh Johnson continues to, his phone always rings every year. Yeah. Hey, we'll find something positive to say about the UFL. I've tried watching. I have tried watching every week. I'll watch for, 4 or 5 series and, try to get a vibe, try to get some crowd shots, try to get some essence. Okay. Another dead horse. WrestleMania 42 that ESPN was hyping last weekend over the course of a couple of nights. No matter how they try, this product seems to be so tired. I mean, the whole thing with Pat McAfee being carted off on a stretcher and blah, 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 blah. It's just so silly. And I'm sitting here thinking, how long are you going to continue to push this nonsense? And I know there's certain people in my feeds that are into JM Punk and all that other stuff, and that's fine, Some people still have, unpure fantasies about Charlotte and all of her competition. Yeah, we get it. But it's so tired, honey. That product is so tired. I mean, MMA should look at that, since they are kind of, partnered together. Well, not kind of, they are. And say, hey, we need to not go down that route, but apparently they both are. Okay, I talked about the big project in Vegas last week. Was another one, because everybody wants to get their hat in the ring as far as this potential team going to Las Vegas. And this latest concept, which is also going to be somewhere in South Vegas, but at least closer to Mandalay Bay. Excuse me. This is called Diamond Vegas. I've seen the renderings. Unlike the folks last week, y'all ain't got no money yet. So stay tuned. The point being is Vegas becoming a major entertainment sports destination is giving the dreamers all sorts of hopes and all sorts of schemes to get closer to that big bag of cash and bring the dreams and fantasies to all of us at a cost. Yeah. And lastly, AI already kicking our asses and getting rid of all of us white collar folks. Did we really need to see a robot winning a half marathon in China in record time? This is so 2026 for you, isn't it? All right, folks, we're turning and burning. When we come back, we will do the beautiful game live. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Episode 311. Be sure to give a like to FTINFX Media's YouTube channel. Help a brother out. Really, really appreciate that. Tell your friends to do so as well. You'll be doing yourself a good deed. And like I said, helping a brother who could use your help in that regard. Not asking much. Okay then, let's do some beautiful game life. Yeah, I know, we're going out of order again this week. A little variety. A lot going on. I think I mentioned this on Aftershocks 041 the other day. That we are now less than 50 days away from the World Cup. I said Bob Bradley, one of the deans of American soccer, Mr. Bruce down there lighting things up in San Jose. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, folks, it's on, okay? And man, seeing some of these ticket prices that are just released, they released another allotment of tickets yesterday. I don't know what I did wrong in this lifetime, but if I had done right in this lifetime and could even afford these kind of prices, I'd tell you to go kick rocks. And while it would be great to say, hey, yeah, it was so incredible to attend the World Cup in America, Russia, or wherever the F, at these 26 prices, British Petroleum. Come on now. Come on now. Yeah, I think this is interesting. Okay, there are some insiders close to the president who are pushing for Italy to replace Iran in the World Cup if this conflict continues. But I haven't heard that Iran doesn't want to not be there. They just don't want to play their games in the U.S. And when there's games in Mexico and Canada, until we get to the nitty-gritty, which they won't be there, pretty assured of that, it's not a problem. So nice try, Italy, and whatever envoy that's close to Trump and Mr. I. Come on now, this is shameless. Your sorry asses couldn't make it again. Don't try to backdoor your way in. Okay, let's go around the globe, shall we? In the EPL, boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's getting really interesting. After Manchester City, those citizens, closed the gap to 3 after a thriller at the Etihad, beating the Gunners 2-1. And you have to wonder when it comes to Arsenal, is this another bottle job? And what will their beleaguered fan base do if this ends up not going well? Because they're still in Champions League as well, so there still could be glory, but there sure could be a whole lot of misery. And the one thing we know about the internet, especially the Soccer Peanut Gallery, if there's going to be misery when it comes to a bottling job, they're going to let the Gunner faithful feel it times 100. This you can be assured of. Mr. Markel, I'm not saying you're on the hot seat, but it'll be a long summer if you somehow do not get the EPL. Because who knows what's going to happen in the Champions League. That's going to be a whole nother wild stuff. But that kicks off again this week. We're looking forward to that. Man, what's the story over there at Stamford Bridge? Yeah? I mean, first, Manchester United, who's got their own set of problems, although they've done pretty well under Michael Carrick. But United handed the Blues their 6th loss in 7 games. And so basically, the board had had enough of Leon Rosenau. After 4 months, 5 straight losses in which they were scoreless, he was shown the door. This is what I'm always talking about when it comes to the middle game life. Oh, you don't get even a whole season. If this is going shitty after 3 or 4 months, your ass gets kicked to the curb. They don't not even hesitate. Yeah, so big change going on over there. Some sad stuff going on too. One, the Dingles, as my brethren in Blackburn call the folks at Burnley, the Turf Moor crew, they are being relegated once again. Basically what they've been doing for the better part of the 2020s, ping-ponging back and forth. They can fight their way out of the championship only to get their asses sent back down the next year, which is going to be frustrating, but at least they're there. Because Leicester City, who won the damn thing in 2015, and what keeps the pro rail zealots alive, they've been relegated from the championship. They're going to League One after being Premier League champions in 2015. Something Blackburn knows about as well, having won it in 95, and at one point they were in League One, and now they're just mid in the championship tier. That's why the folks at Spurs, and why I keep bringing it up, because they are currently in the drop zone, why they are petrified, because sometimes when you go down, you cannot get past the mediocrity. But I think the pockets at Tottenham, Because I think if the guy doesn't die in the plane crash for Leicester City, I think it's a whole different story. And that changes things. I can't see the Spurs becoming a permanent fixture in the lower tiers. But if something doesn't cool happen, they going down, brother. Okay, what else do we have here? Real Sociedad beats Atletico Madrid to win the Copa del Rey. 4-3 on penalties. Another tough hit for the man in black. I have a feeling he's going to suffer another one at the hands of Arsenal, but, that's just me. A lot to talk about in the MLS. I mentioned the other day about San Jose body slamming LAFC over the weekend. Got that out of the way. Messi had a brace to get entered back in the win column. 3-2 over the Rapids. 76K. Damn. Nashville City continued to be the belle of the ball, while FC Cincinnati and the Crew continue to sputter. Leave it to the Tims to actually beat LAFC and then come back with a lackluster performance. Get the Wonderwall clean-sheeted. Seattle, quietly off the radar, kicking butt. Better keep an eye on them. I was going to say, we had matches midweek too. And LAFC continues its weird form. Very disappointing draw with Colorado. At home, 0-0. It's going to get tough. They have to go to the Wonderwall next. San Jose, after looking they were in trouble, put up another 5 start. Mr. Arena, what's up with the Quake 74? Looking scary as you-know-what. Who's not looking scary as you-know-what? San Diego, another stumble. This time losing in Houston. Yes, indeed. Heavy who wears the crown of the pretender. Okay. That's what's happening there. Over in League One. PSG had a bad stumble at home to Lyon. Rotated squad, but still no excuse. Everybody's mad at Lucho. But however, they rebounded midweek to get a big win at home over Nantes. Soon to probably be relegated Nantes. They're up by 4 with 4 matches to play. Still got some work there to do. Obviously, Champions League very much in play. Over in Liga MX, Chivas still leads. They lead Pachuca by 3 after 15 match days. Keeping an eye there. Water's wet. Sydney Sweeney has simps. We all want a bag of cash. Yeah, so what? Bayern Munich winning the Bundesliga once again. Oh, gee, really will. But true enough, congratulations to Bayern Munich. Now they can focus on a titanic 2-way tie with the PSG starting next week. Looking forward to it. Keep an eye over there on my man CR7. Since he's over in Saudi, he sometimes gets lost in the shuffle. But that team has been balling. They've won like 18 matches in a row, qualified for AFC 2, whatever it's called, however that's done. But he's in another Champions League final, so CR7 could say, Messi, F you. I'm getting the hardware too. Cool there. United States women win their rubber match with Japan 3-0. So they took 2 of 3. So nothing wrong in Emma Hayes' world. This we like. And lastly, how about this one? For all you folks who like to poo-poo on lady sports, it's just women's sports. Oh, that may be the case. And you may think the NWSL is just another one of those unnecessary leagues. Stop it. Columbus is getting a team that's going to start in the 2028 season. How much is the expansion fee? It is a whopping $205 million. That ain't no joke, y'all. You can say what you want. But these ladies are generating revenue, and folks are willing to pay for the product because they know they're going to make more dollars. It's real, whether you want to embrace it or not. $205 million for an NWSL expansion franchise. You get them, ladies. All right, folks. We're blazing and blazing. When we come back, we will have a jam-packed NBA beat. A lot to going on in the association, and there's probably a little sauce that goes with the queens of the court. See you momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of minutes, as always. Kind of planning our later adventure, which I think put some more time into. Um, yeah, crazy stuff going on in the Foxhole and outside of it. But even crazier time is the association, as we are deep into round one. But before that, there's some interesting things that are percolating outside of the lines. Well, this talk about expansion, we're pretty sure the Emerald City and Sin City are expansion wise. But maybe LeBron James may have been onto something when it comes to Memphis, Tennessee. There's a scuttlebutt, and it's just a scuttlebutt for now, but somewhere that the Memphis Grizzlies could find themselves in Music City. That the league and maybe the owners are not enamored, which would be interesting because, shit, you should, if that was the case, why the hell did you leave Vancouver? You'd be smoking that good pot, hanging out with all those cutie snow bunnies and all that kind of stuff. British Petroleum. But hey, it is what it is. So, yeah, we'll keeping an eye on that. I know it's been a lot. It seems like it's been an eternity. So much has gone on. With Wemby winning the Defensive Player of the Year, hey, guy can spot things out of the stratosphere. So good there. Still surprised at how the Hornets crashed and burned. I, like a few others, spoke very highly of them as being a scary out in the first round, and they couldn't even get out of the playing round. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. And then you have, the Warriors running out of steam. Yeah. This whole talk about Steve Kerr. Draymond feels like it might be the end. The SF Gate thinks it might be kind of the end. Going as far as saying that the club itself had gotten tired of all of his woke politics. Kind of a sign that all of us are getting tired of the whole woke, wake, race baiting, hustling, whatever. I don't know if that's all true because other people have said that or close to him that is, have said, yeah, he's not ready to walk away. So this is going to be interesting if he is forced out. I mean, I forget they've already got somebody apparently that they're really hot on. So yeah, Billy Donovan looked around and saw the building being blown up and said, I'm Audi 5000. I don't need this shit. People think high of me. I was doing you a favor. I said the other day about Mike Wilbon basically commenting that Chicago is the Bulls are probably the worst franchise of all the big city teams, are the least relevant. It wasn't the worst, but it's the least relevant. You may not be wrong there. Okay, so let's get it on. Well, KD's out the first game, knee contusion. Lakers somehow win. You think, okay, whatever, keep the series interesting. You don't expect LeBron to go to bully ball, something I've been saying he should have been doing all along in the playoffs. Kennard, as I've said repeatedly, somebody who actually comes to the Lakers and remembers how to shoot. It's been a pleasant surprise for those who didn't know he possessed that. And if you're a Laker fan, which you know I am, you have to be asking yourselves, it's 2026. It's taking you this long to find somebody who actually has money from the perimeter? The Lakers are up 2-0. Then you have the Knicks. You think everything is all good and dandy. They handle their business in game one. Take care of business. And then lose game two at home. Then game three on the road. A very, I don't know, I would have to say an in the trenches kind of affair, being in the Foxhole. Game that, despite being in trouble at times, was theirs to win. And they fumbled that shit away. And now, they're down 2-1. I'm looking at you, Mr. Peabody, but I'm not going to put this all on you. But it'll be a colossal failure. Just because, wait a minute, let me phrase this correctly. It's one thing to have the expectations, being the East. But for me, it's like the Knicks just being in the fight as long as they can is always good for basketball. Going out in the first round to a Hawks team, come on. British Petroleum. Speaks for itself. So yeah, it's 2-1, and they somehow mess up game 4. They gonna be in trouble. Man, CJ McCollum, massive flowers. Man, be getting it done. Good to see him land in a spot and be a major contributor. He's been solid everywhere he's been, but it's good that he's being a difference maker right now. And yeah, give him the gold star. Another interesting series, as we've said before when we were doing the preview, it's kind of a shame that these two had to meet so early, but that's the way the playoffs go. And this Nuggets T-Wolves series, woo man, it's been a wimdinger. Haven't used that one in a while. After game one, I thought, I just don't think Minnesota has what it takes. Denver's been my dark horse. 3 games later, I'm like, I think Minnesota might win this damn thing. I mean, it's 2-1 with these teams. It's going to go back and forth. But you got to give Minnesota credit. They have found a way to frustrate Joker and Murray and Gordon in winning time. And that's huge. You know, Ant-Man, who hasn't been spectacular, so they were getting it from all different sources. And I thought they put the metal down to take control of the series last night. This is one of those where Denver does not somehow get it together in game 4. They're going to find themselves in Cancun a lot sooner than any of us anticipated. Celtics and 76ers. This is one of those, okay, Celtics humble the Sixers in game 1, one of those record scores. We know the history between the two. Sixers get off the carpet to win game 2. But does anybody really think the Sixers are going to win this? Don't Boston always find a way to chump games throughout a playoff series, throughout a run? Yeah, Philadelphia wants another game. I will be surprised. Simple as that. I think this Pistons Magic series is probably where it should be. Not surprised that Magic are capable of pushing this to 6 or 7, but in the end, I still think the Pistons, you're going to have to take them. The Blazers, wow. Back to Wemby. We talked about this in Aftershocks the other day. This is one of those things. I was afraid that concussion could cost him 2-3 games. And if that's the case, I can see the Blazers, even without Wemby, San Antonio is still the better team in my opinion. Sans the masterfully Drew Holiday. I can see the Blazers going up 3-1 before Wemby comes back, which would be just Titanic. But then again, it dovetails very nicely into the narrative a lot of us have been saying for a while. You're coming, but it ain't showtime yet. And this may be one of those moments, you know? The Cavs are in cruise control in spite of the Raptors putting on a good show in front of the home fans and getting that series to 2-1. So, yeah, we cool with that. Let me see here. Speaking of the Hornets, isn't it funny? LeVar, hopefully he's convalescing and getting strong again. I haven't heard the big baller Brian in a while. He's already putting out those wolf tickets that the Hornets should sign the other one and get Zoe so they could have the threesome that he said would lead the Lakers to many championships. They say cocaine is a powerful drug. I think delusion might be even a more powerful one. I don't know if I want to smoke any of that. Just saying. Okay. Let's take a stroll down the hallway and let's take a quick peek on the queens of the court. That league that many of us feel is the train wreck we can't keep our eyes off. Starring some of the most unlikable characters in all of sport. Well, yeah. All kinds of interesting things are going on over there. Ticket sales are lagging, even for Caitlin Clark. And the debates about Caitlin and Angel, the fan bases are so psychotic. I mean, they're already, the Angel Reeves hive is causing trouble with longtime Atlanta Dream fans. Yeah, already carrying that vibe. The Caitlyn simps and weirdos are already creating conspiracy theories how Caitlyn's getting fucked over even though we have not even played a preseason game yet. Just a league that has to create drama for storylines. I mean, to the point where, when Megan R came out and said, I think the WNBA should just have lesbian referees because they understand queer culture, is a footnote compared to all the other whackballness that continually goes on with this particular league. I ain't lying. I probably talk about this more than I should, but we talk about everything. Everything that's newsworthy and causes those Hiroshimas in your brain when you watch it. And this is one of those. And now everybody's getting the big bag and flaunting it in weird ways. And, they should say, act like you've been there. But they haven't been there before, so you can't blame them in that regard. But it's so childish and silly, all the nonsense that's going on. All right. I can sit here and, go really, dark ops with that one, but no need. The point's been made. Okay, when we come back, we'll shake and bake, but some Nightfall and Diamonds. See you momentarily. All right now. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Hearing more draft madness. Just seeing some first things first over there to the right. On the Metroplex. Ooh, we'll save all this stuff. We're just a couple of segments away from getting into that wormhole. Let's stick to what we know offhand. All right, time to ride the hippie bus first. Dark Star crashes, mirror shatters. The Nightfall of Diamonds. A section, the fun part. Man, for once, not too many somber passings to give a nod to. But there is one. I see. Well, there's actually two this week. But one, Dave Mason. Traffic. Delaney and Bartlett and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Especially the traffic. All that. Just kind of one of those classic 60s, 70s icons. Our condolences go out to his people. All right, let's get to some happier stuff. Spear 2, weekend 1 pass. We're in weekend 2 now. So I caught show 1. Really enjoyed the visuals. As I said last week, I've caught bits and pieces of the other shows. It looks like everybody is having a wondrous time in Sin City. And there's all kinds of fun stuff to do before and after, which is interesting. Go ahead. And I didn't see Fish in Vegas until like 98. But I went 98 and 2000. Thinking about what the scene is. And obviously I lived in Vegas from 93 to 96. But, they played in Vegas in 96 right after I left. Anyway. It's just funny thinking about the Vegas scene and what a clusterfuck it was in those days compared to this big thing they've got going on, where they've got indoor shakedown with bands playing and food and light shows and everything's going all the time. Wonderful how we've grown up. Not everything has to be negative, right? Biscuits, they tore up the West Coast, took in Crystal Bay. San Francisco was red hot. Love how Marlin is settling in there. Very good. Everybody's all pumped up about the summer shows. Not happy that LCD Sound System's playing 2 nights at the Edgefield and could come down here and play a night and would just kill it. Would be way better to see LCD Sound System at the Cuthbert than half the crap that they have. And it's not all crap, but LCD Sound System, brother, would have been fun as F. I'll just leave it at that. Oh, I forgot to mention about in Spear 1, not Spear 1, but Spear 2, Section 1, or Segment 1. Pretty cool that Joe Walsh, I guess, came as a guest of the band, right? They did. I just crack up when I think about every time Fish does that cover, and people are always talking about the Eagles, and just like, that dude's a Joe Walsh song. But anyways, that's cool that Joe Walsh went to a Fish concert and came away happy. Now, remember I was telling you about the Dead Vault? Basically, now the Dead Stream that's available. Well, without getting into specifics, I'll just say the Dead G's out there, you never disappoint. Dang, I was thinking it's going to take you a minute or two to accomplish that. You had that shit fucking accomplished the next day. And if you know, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But we don't want to advocate that sort of thing, so we're just going to leave it for your imaginations as to what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, let's hop off the hippie bus. Let's get to the real Nightfall Diamonds. The Dark Star has crashed. Now we can smell the pine tar. The Mets, their skid up finally ends. Because I went on a big rant about Mr. Cohen's folly the other day. You get Soto back. Lindor gets hurt. Right? But Hangman's justice going on in Queens nonstop. I still think it's funny that people are having arguments on the internet, whether it's the Mandami curse or the Kokomo curse that is taking the Mets down. The one thing that is interesting, though, their brethren over there in the hard-nosed Bronx, the 28 or 27-time champion Yankees, they met up with the Red Sox. Doesn't quite have the panache that when these two teams met earlier in the century, but it's still cool. And what are our takeaways from this latest matchup of these two AL East Titans? Well, the Yankees sweep. which is great. They've had their hiccups, but they are handling their business, and they're off to a decent enough start in 2026. The Red Sox, however, it's a different story. They are 9-16 in the cellar, which means there's going to be work to do if they don't start balling. As we said the other day, you're not going to panic about teams that are a little pooey right now before Memorial Day. But at some point, you are going to have to start turning it on, especially when you are looking up at everybody else. And that is what the Bean Eaters are doing right now. Yeah. Another team we have to ask about and be concerned, perhaps. It is early, but the Phillies have lost 8 straight. Slump? Or is this a sign they may be the next Braves? Because the Braves were hot at the beginning of the decade, went south, and now they have righted the ship. Could this be the beginning of the Phils entering a similar phase? Way too early to tell, but something to keep an eye on. Most def. Okay? When it comes to the Astros, Mariners, and Brewers, all struggling early, is it less of an issue? Or maybe these teams are headed to mid, perhaps worse. I don't know. Hard to sit there and be so smart in April, especially when you know you're not. What's the guy that drives? When you're not Jeff Passan. Okay, everybody's team do hate with good reason. The Los Angeles Dodgers, interesting week as they've somewhat come to earth. Getting a spot for the Rockies, fair enough. Lose Mr. Diaz, who they just got. Don't know how long that's going to be. Bullpen already being issues. Then they go up to Oracle, and the Giants take 2 out of 3. Lost in all of this? The Padres. 8-2 in their last 10, and they have quietly moved into a tie for first with the Dodgers. And as we say in SoCal, even though I'm up in Western Oregon, LFG, let's effing go. As this little sideshow between the LA boys and the folks down in San Diego. Some great storylines, a lot of great shit talking. Gonna be a fun late spring, summer, into fall, if this is how it's gonna be with those two. As little brother who just got sold for $4 million finally wants to have its moment being in the shadow of the colossus that is Dodger Blue. So fun times ahead there. Very good. Okay. Let's hop on the Zamboni and take a ride around the ice rink of life. We don't talk enough about hockey just because we've just been lame in securing an NHL correspondent to give us insights. I only watch it so much because, dang, I got way too much data that I'm trying to wrap around and still fix other areas of my life and somehow get this to another level. So blah, 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 excuses. Let's shut up and talk. Well, the Avs owning my Go Kings Go. As disappointing as that is, not a surprise. I actually would be surprised if the Kings were making more of a series of it. They're not. 3-0 right now. Good night, Kings. Yeah. This Stars Wild series is very interesting to me. But the Wild go on the road in game 1 and pummel the Stars. They put up a 6 spot. Then the Stars say, okay, fine. And they win the next 2. This is why you love the NHL playoffs, because everybody was like, oh my God, this is going to be so scary. I'm like, yeah, okay. What else is happening here? Utah and Vegas 1-1. Anaheim, Edmonton 1-1. Big doings there tonight. Over in the East, Buffalo finally back in the playoffs. Josh Allen there revving it up. The newly minted dad, Josh Allen. Buffalo leading The beleaguered Bruins 2-1. Montreal, Tampa Bay Lightning 1-1. The Hurricanes giving my man who owns the Blazers something to smile about, leading the Senators 3-0. And like I said the other day, I'm telling you, the folks in Pittsburgh are saying, hold the provolone and the cheese whiz. Get that cheesesteak out of my face, because it's Flyers 3, Penguins 0. Good night, Penguins. All right, folks, when we return, we'll shake and bake with a closer look. Be back momentarily. All right now. That time of the week when we get to this part of the podcast where we get to opinionate, editorialize, talk a little trash. Let's make it happen. A closer look coming at you. This Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini scandal. Oh my days, as PSGINT would say. Never in my wildest dreams did I see this story taking on a life like it is taken since we just spoke 2 or 3 days ago. Well, 2 days ago, because I did Aftershocks on Wednesday. And at this point, I don't know what to think. I didn't think it was possible for Vrabes, as I call him, his job to be in question. I was pretty sure she was going to take a lot of the hits, but I'm thinking this is far, far worse based on the speculation. Now, mind you, it's only so much of our business, but as I said the other day, by lacking whatever discipline you want to call it, sexual discipline, moral discipline, or just not being dumbasses, if you're getting your freaky deaky on, why the fuck are you doing it in public? Where you can get busted by a PI or others, because clearly, who's ever behind the release of these photos, they're trying to get, these fools have been doing this for a while, and I didn't know she was married to Moneybags, and which, go figure. But this is just going to be so ugly. As people pointed out, him missing basically 2 days of the draft, the most important days. Because right, unless you have a handful of picks, you won't need to be there on day one. But when you're roster building, as they pointed out, was it? I don't know who it was. Doesn't matter. But basically, Bill Belichick building all those championships. Guys, rounds 3 to 7. Where did Tom Brady go? Say no more. But just, you need to be there. And because of your sexual deviance, this story just keeps getting weirder and weirder. This is what blows me away. I don't need to get too deep in some of the speculation out there in terms of, hey, that kid might even be Vrabel's. After all, his name is Mike, or Michael. Wow. And it sucks because there are people who don't need to be dragged into this. And maybe that's why you're going to walk away, because you can't. I don't know. You can't continually put the people around you into that kind of scrutiny. If I know folks say, well, he's not a leader of men, but he can be a great coach. Eisenhower cheated on Mamie with Kay. He's considered one of the greatest leaders of men. Stop with this nonsense, people. Or you can't. Plenty of these fools can't keep their tallywhacker in the tent when it comes to the bucket boo-boo. As Coach JB said, P is 1001, or for you ladies, D is 1001 and 0. When that's what you want, whew, okay. It's not our business to get tawdry in the foxhole, but this whole thing is just cracking me up. And what should have been maybe a 3 or 4 day thing is only going to get deeper, especially with the draft, because, well, what the hell? If you sell something to the New York Post or DMZ a couple of hours before the draft, hey, we're talking about this instead of that. I mean, whatever's going on here has been craftily manipulated, designed, and executed. It's kind of amazing to watch because it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And it is. And it continues to be. Yeah, okay. That's a perfect segue into the draft. So, the NFL's biggest circle jerk in the offseason kicked off last night in the Steel City. What was there, like 325,000 a record? Top, where was it at? Detroit, I think, a couple years ago, they had 275. So the Steel City, 320. You know me. I'll say it once. I'll say it 8,000 times. What drives you folks to go from all over the place to go sit out there to see somebody's name called? Knock yourselves out. But hey, you do you. At least the hardcore Skins fan, I think his name's Stephen Boyd, Skins, Commanders. I saw he was posting pictures like, dude, you didn't. But I saw that there was a draft party at Northwest Stadium. But the thing is, if he did, I couldn't fault him. Because the one thing that's cool about, the East Coast, right, the whole geography thing, that Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or DC having the draft there, you can get there from most of those places out there, and it makes sense if you want to have a pilgrimage and get your football on. But if you're a West Coaster, let's say at Seattle, LA, or San Diego, it's like, and you're making the trek, and I saw plenty of those jerseys to suggest they did. Okay. You've got to love a lot of the intrigue, especially, people being in the green room and the tension, like Reuben Bain Jr., the interesting prospect from the U, the question about his arms. Love the theatrics he played on. Oh, you gonna diss me like that? He rolled it hard, man. I'd love to see that. And, the kid that cried, I can't think of his name right now, but really bawling, right? Right that time when somebody took your toy and you just started bawling, it was like that. I know we have to, tap into our more sensitive sides and say, oh, that's really proud and strong that the young man could cry in front of the world because he finally reached his dream. If I'm about to go get the big bag of cash, I ain't crying. I'm just going to have that. I'm just going to have that look, and you can almost see my teeth, shining like sapphires miles away, just like, oh yeah, it's on. And ain't no tears up in this bitch. Oh my goodness. And there's just so much good. I love this stuff though. I mean, basically, the kid that ended up, God, what did he? Basically, he was on the phone with the Steelers. And while he's on the phone with the Steelers, the Eagles swoop in and make a trade and move up to grab him. I just love it. The other weird side of it, though, and it's because there is only so much to talk about. And if you're not in the NBA, which a lot of the folks who cover the NFL get cranky with this version of the NBA, I'll understand that. But some of the manufactured anger, like this whole thing, right? The kid from Alabama, the Rams, taking him at 13. And people just having aneurysms over it. And I'm sitting there thinking, why are you so pissed? Okay, So there's a snapshot of McVay that's circulating the interwebs. Basically, people think he looks displeased and he's angry that their GMs made the pick. Or other people that claim they have inside knowledge say that's just not the case. And on and on and on. I'm still thinking, okay, I think the more astute of folks that are trying to explain this move by the Rams, that barring injuries, and injuries can happen to any NFL team, this we know, but if they're healthy, they're probably going to pick anywhere from 28 to 32. This is how it is because they were good. They're one of the favorites to be a Super Bowl winner, right? And so the idea that you're not going to have a shot to get some of the better quarterbacks. If this guy, even if a lot of people don't see him necessarily as being even a mid-first rounder, it'd be fair to say he would have been taken by the end of the first round. And the Rams, and they are a smart organization. They know how to find talent. I don't know why the hardcore blowback was about this particular pick. But all day today, folks screaming and yelling, I just go, oh, okay, this is a weak draft. You all don't like basketball that much. So you need something to get clicks and cause drama. Okay, folks. Looking forward to night 2 of the draft. And some other weirdness. Got Lakers and all kinds of fun stuff tonight. It's going to be fun. But before we get to all that kind of fun, when we come back, the NFL report, we got some TMCA time on the horizon. Be back momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Foxtrotting in the Foxhole, episode 311. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chilling like Kavicha Karvich yeah. Watching a little First Things First as they dissect the Knicks meltdown last night in the Big Peach. All smiles here. Gotta boogie through this and go find out the skinny on Sporting Cascade Football Club's future. Meet the new boss. Hopefully not same as the old boss kind of thing. Oh, okay. So let's have an NFL report. Unfortunately, we have another somber one. This one kind of goes back to the good old days. When men were men and not doing dances on TikTok. But whatever. You do you. Rod Martin, key cog, especially in that Super Bowl win over the Eagles. Yeah, just those were great teams. Even if they beat my Redskins in Super Bowl 18, got nothing but mad respect for those Raiders teams. Those obviously were the last. I don't care about that team that went to the Super Bowl and got dusted by Tampa Bay at the beginning of the century. But that's the last of what was the classic Oakland LA Raiders. And he's definitely a badass on those teams in the late 70s, early 80s. Our condolences go out to his family, Raider Nation. I just had a big thing about the draft. Now just quick recap of the top 5. No surprise. Mr. Clean goes to Las Vegas. Going to be interesting to see how that works out. But he's a good dude. He's got good people around him. Good family scene there. Mr. Bailey goes to the Jets. Not everybody's crazy about that pick. People seem to be split on Mr. Love going to Arizona. My team wanted him. They think that's kind of high for a running back. The running back's kind of high since Mr. Saquon Barkley. Can this guy be that? Time will tell. Carnell Tate goes to Tennessee. Hopefully that's the tonic that Cam Ward needs to elevate his game. And Mr. Reese goes to the Giants. Giants had 2 picks in the draft last night. Everybody seems to think they did well. People like the Cowboys, the moves they made, that they may have gotten the best player in the first round, trading up to do so. A lot of people are happy with the Commanders taking Sonny Styles. And that may have been one of the more solid finds in the draft. And like all these people that said they should trade out, this is the reason why they didn't. Okay. So, that's the first round. You know, there were some surprises. Just talked about the whole thing, you know, with the Rams. And some other things. But nothing, pretty uneventful. Like the pace of it all. Wonderful. But now, let's look at the brass tacks. What do you think of Coach Kubiak in Las Vegas, speaking of the Raiders? Right there, off-season workouts, and everybody has plain silver helmets. Basically, he says you have to earn the shield. Many former players are not cool with that. Just like saying, yo, bitch, this ain't fucking college and high school where that shit matters. We're pros. I think both can be true. I like that he's trying to instill some toughness, but I like that the old guard is just like, come on, man. This is his first time through. You got to learn these things. Even if he's been a coordinator, you know, learn under his daddy, wanting to be a tough guy. And given how moribund the Raiders have been for most of this century, like in soccer, if this bullshit doesn't work, kick it down, kick it to the curb. You've already shown that you haven't been hesitant to do that. So there you go with that. Bengals, talked about this earlier in the week. They made the trade for Dexter Lawrence. They extended him. Everybody seems to like that for both sides, especially the whole thing that Mr. Harbaugh is trying to install in Gotham. This guy doesn't like to work from Monday to Saturday, from what they say on the interwebs. He'll show up on Sunday and bust his ass off for you, but you're trying to instill a new regime. Probably having a guy like that around is not the best for the equation. What can you say as far as that goes? Thought it was interesting that Jimmy Johnson, you know, his comment about the Jets. Yeah, we'll see about that. I like the Niners re-upping with Trent Williams, 38. But that guy, as long as he wants to play, he's always going to be a badass. You know, the folks in Washington still talking about what a crappy move Snyder and Bruce Allen did. I'm like, let it go already. He's been with the 49ers forever. Different ownership. But no, the DC media can't let that one go. Let's see here. You know, I think I mentioned the other day the A.J. Brown trade talks are heating up, especially seeing that the Eagles, I mean, didn't they get the kid from SC? The receiver? So, yeah, Mr. Brown probably will end up catching balls from Drake May and that. But as a Commanders fan, that doesn't bother me one bit. I think I talked about Mr. Aubrey getting the big bag from Jerry Jones, the kicker. Dude that can make it from 60 consistently. Yeah, you give that guy the money. You don't have to give him the King's Ranch, but you make sure he's living large in the penthouse. Hell yeah. Tomlin landing at NBC, no shock there, right? It was like, oh, okay, we can finally get rid of Tony Dungy's self-righteous ass and still score points with the race hustlers, baiters, and the woke sports media. Nicely done, NBC. Music City, getting a lot of love this week. Rumors that the NBA could be heading there, and now we know the 2030 Super Bowl is going to Music City as well. So, hey, put your cowboy boots on and that blue jean skirt. It's time to do the two-step. And when it comes to the Bears, I don't know what to think about this whole stadium conversation. Is it Indiana? Is it Illinois? Shit, are you going to fucking build it somewhere in Wisconsin? What's the deal? And in the meanwhile, soldiers get it up, it'll get it done. but I have to wonder how long they are going to drag their feet with this stadium project. All right, we'll be looking forward to breaking down more of the draft next week. But this is early afternoon. The folks at the Foundry did us a solid by getting the work done last night and dropping the stainless steel balls of the smelliest varieties off early. So they are very putrid for this edition of TMCA time. TMCA time, where we give out the stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties for those whose deeds during the week have earned that distinction, or as we like to say, them being who they be. They come in complimentary, regular, and XL sizes, and many times they're served in multiples. Here we go. Well, I'm going to give Max Homa, the golfer, I'm going to give him an XL for being a B like Sergio did at the Masters. Just you did it at Hilton. Come on now. There's cameras, there's cell phones everywhere. You don't want to be that guy that becomes a meme for the next 10 years because you can't control your anger because you're sucking on the course or you made a boo-boo. Come on. Where do I put this one? Okay, I'm going to put, this is two. One for the Hall of Shame and one for the Browns organization. It's off-season workouts. What are you doing sending out a quarterback tracker of how these clowns are doing? I know because the Shador sexuals need validation every 2 seconds. But I don't give a shit about what Dylan Gabriel, Deshaun Watson, or Shador are doing at this time of year. When everybody's still, glass-eyed and all laughing and getting their reps in. Come on, man. Stop it. I'm going to give it an XL. I know Stephen A's got quite a collection of these. I'm going to give it an XL. Come on, man. Even if you believe golfers and race car drivers aren't athletes, you, of all people, are in no position to question anybody who competes, whether or not they're an athlete. And why we continue to empower your clown ass is a sad, sad commentary for what we're willing to put up with in this country. And that's a fact. Not everybody agrees with that, but I think the same and reasonable folks do. Simple as that. I'm going to give a regular. It's not quite XL yet, but we may be awarding, this may get bigger as time goes on. I got to give Whitlock, who I usually, I won't say side with, but I get a good part of what he's coming with. I do like the people he brings into his form. But he's been kind of jumping the shark lately. And it's not so much the biblical thing, because, whatever, with his take on that. But shorting us on the content, and it really getting weird when people don't agree with whatever twisted shit's going on in his head. But yeah, he deserves one. Cam, you're getting a collection as well. You get an XL for doubling down on your whole MVP trophy, your MVP trophy being more valuable than a Super Bowl trophy, and basically saying, well, Trent Dilfer's got one, and Brad Johnson. Cam, I know what you're trying to do, and when you don't have a ring, this sounds exactly like somebody trying to validate what they did. You're not an all-time great. I don't even think you're a Hall of Famer. And when we talk about MVPs, which is a beauty contest, which can always be debated, it can be never debated that Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson or Mark Rippon led their teams to a victory in a Super Bowl. They've got the ring that matters, not the Cracker Jack MVP ring, which is so subjective and such a beauty contest. Come on, bro. I know you're doing it for clicks and engagement, but you're so whacked out, I really think you believe this. Okay. Complimentaries all around and an XL for the Hall of Shame. Weirdos camping out 12 hours in advance because there was a In-N-Out that opened up the road here in Vancouver, Washington. I like me some double, all that good stuff too. But I ain't waiting no bitch ass 12 hours for some animal style fries, man. Y'all gotta be kidding me. Okay. Speaking of burgers, we'll get another XL for the Hall of Shame and complimentaries all around. Did you see that video that went viral of these ghetto chicks having a Royal Rumble on a Whataburger in Waco, Texas? I talked about this at Aftershocks the other day with the Giants and Nationals chicks. What is going on with the decorum? I mean, I talked about it earlier with hood prom culture, but this whole let's get into the octagon ghetto style shit, man, that's above my pay grade. I'm just saying. You know, while I'm at it, I will give those chicks that were brawling at the Giants and Nats games another XL for the Hall of Shame and complimentaries all around for them too. So yeah, folks were busy at the Foundry this week. Okay, and you know we passed 420 and all this kind of stuff. So this is another one for the Hall of Shame and complimentaries all around. All you weirdos that are obsessed with Columbine ideology and think, you know, Mr. Klebold and the other jackass who did all that destruction and the copycats, you all fucking suck, okay? Get a fucking life. Get into your porn, whatever it is, but stop celebrating those two jackasses. Alrighty, folks. We've reached the finish line for episode 311. Big sports weekend ahead with the NBA playoffs coming at you and rocking you. Lots of soccer, MLB, golf, just a smorgasbord of fun things. It's going to be nice up here in the Willamette Valley, and if it's nice where you're at, get out and get some fresh air. Enjoy some cold brews or your beverage of choice. Enjoy the good eats, and better, enjoy the company with people that matter. Always stay safe. Always stay sane. Avoid those damn bracelets at all cost. Hell yeah. Keep it tight, keep it clean. Always be real, and we'll see you soon enough. Be sure to keep an eye out for the next Aftershocks, which should be dropping Tuesday or Wednesday. Peace, y'all.